An instant classic. The Houston Cougars move on to the national championship game. Never in doubt, right?
You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Coogs. I think this is the first ever Locked On Coogs from the road, leaving the Final Four. I'm your host of Locked On Coogs, Park Angel, joined, I guess, silently by my father here as he's driving the guard diligently back after Houston comes back to win. I don't even know what to say. 70-67. A lot of things to talk about in this one. A lot of things to just like react to. I don't know. I don't really know how that just happened. We were there in the stadium. It was chaos getting out of the stadium. It was chaos getting into the car and getting out of the driving. It's been a wild, wild ride. And we're on it right now. We're on it right now, heading back. We've got about an hour in front of us. Let's go do it. We got some time to talk here. I'm not going to talk to you up for the whole hour. We got a ride, a long ride home. Houston won 70-67. And honestly, I could go play by play at the end a little bit. It's a little hazy as far as like what exactly happened in my head. I know LJ Cryer finished with free throws, and he had 26 points. And honestly, I don't know how they win this game without him down the stretch. The defense, though, the Duke goes the last, was it like 10 minutes without a field goal? They send Duke to the line and they miss a free throw towards the end. And Houston just would not die. They just wouldn't die. Houston, we're going to go through a little bit of play-by-play. Let's make sure I get this thing in the right order. Cooper Flagg makes a couple free throws and stuff like that. But ultimately, this is when Kelvin Sampson talks about culture, and culture wins, and toughest team wins, and it's not over till it's over, and you can't lose if you don't quit, and all that kind of stuff. That's what this game was about. I know a lot of people I can see in the comment section here talking about like vengeance feelings and stuff like that for previous years, whether it's last year's Sweet 16 with Duke, previous Final Fours, whatever the case may be. But as I look at this game, like, I think about it as like Houston started with, fifth-year senior, junior, sophomore that started a lot of games this year and played a lot last year. And then Milos Uzan's a 3-year starter. It's his first year at Houston. And like, that was a game that you don't win if you don't have guys that have been through the kind of the fire before. You got guys that have been at Kansas, guys that have been at Arizona, guys that have played. They played Auburn tooth and nail. They took Alabama to the wire in overtime, took Tech to the wire in overtime. You don't win these kinds of things without having gone through those tests. And frankly, you don't do these things with a bunch of freshmen. And Duke's got some talented kids. Dad and I were talking on the walk back to the car. Like, I think they probably got 3 or 4 first-round drafted kind of guys. And it didn't seem to matter down the stretch because Houston had guys that had been there before. As the game got tighter for Duke, the game was tight for Houston at the start, right? Like, Houston opened up the game, unable to make a jumper. LJ Cryer was the only offense in the first half. Milos Uzan had his foul trouble. Houston looked a little shaky. Duke was rolling at the start, right? And the league got up to double digits. I think the guys had 15 at one point. And then down the stretch, Duke got tight. And that's when I think like that switch is when you want your veterans there to kind of take over. The big Emanuel Sharp makes a 3. And then later, Malik Wilson on a weird steal on an inbounds play misses the 3 that felt like the guy behind me at the stands was talking about like that was about to feel like the Kansas shot, but his miss turned to a Joseph Tugler putback to make it a 1-point game. Houston fouls, and then Proctor misses the front end of 1-1 for Duke. Houston comes back down. J1 Roberts gets to make his free throws. He made both free throws, which felt a lot like the Baylor win when they won at Baylor this season. And he has those free throws kind of iced down the stretch. His free throws gave Houston their first lead since the early seconds and minutes. Then Duke called the timeout. Duke continued to struggle to break the press. I can tell you at least one podcast that told you they didn't have a real point guard, they had a bunch of 2 guards, but that's for a different day. They couldn't get the ball on the press. Cooper Flagg comes down. They get the ball across half court. Then they call a timeout. They call an isolation play for Cooper against J1 Roberts. And Juan stands firm and forces him to take a fadeaway jumper in the lane. He falls back. There's no call. He's fading away. Houston gets the rebound, and it takes him a second to foul. I think Wilson got the rebound with like 4 seconds left. Ball gets to Cryer, and they finally foul. Cryer makes both of his free throws. And I guess they chucked one up from deep. That was all she wrote. I mean, Houston holds on to win a game that I was there in the stadium. Air was kind of gone with about 8 or 9 minutes left. We're trying to remind ourselves, like, guys, it's only a 7-point game. Guys, it's only an 8-point game. Yeah, they got a bunch of pros on their team, but like this isn't at a striking distance. And it really was kind of until like Manuel makes free throws about a minute 15 to cut it to 5 points. And it took like that long to be like, oh, really isn't that crazy far off. Um, Houston holds on to win 70-67 in the culturist of culture games in so many ways. Um, and, I also want to put like, when you talk about like conference versus conference, this is a big year. People talk about the SEC. We talked all year on this show about like how the Big 12 had a lot of difficult places to play, a lot of difficult environments, and Houston continued to win on the road in all of those environments, right? I mean, you can't predict what conference is going to be like every year, but this was a really down year for the ACC. And so when we talk about like Houston moving up to play in the Big 12 and playing with the big dogs, and what makes this different than 2021 or makes this different than the Elite Eight run in 2022 or whatever, it's playing in the Big 12 preps you for it preps you for Tennessee, it preps you for Purdue, it preps you for this, and you hope it preps you for Florida on Monday. Lots of stuff going on here in the chat. See, we got a few here. Got some, oh my God, how'd they do that? Kansas game was perfect practice for this. It's fairly accurate, I would say. Joel here says, for a while, I just felt like we couldn't keep up with these elite teams like Duke and UConn. This team showed their heart and experience and elite talent. I feel like, again, like, man, oh man, if you look at like that team and the experience they got playing in the Big 12 this year, it's exactly that. Blue collar, baby, blue collar over blue blood. A couple different comments like that. That's a lot of fun. Close games all season prepared them for the culture. 6-year seniors come to the clutch at the end there. Wow. Cardiac Coogs. A couple of fun comments here from Locked On Gators trying to say, hey, when do you want to talk about Monday? Jamal Shed avenged. I love this team. Cardiac Coogs. Vegas currently has Florida as a 1.5-point favorite. That changed from 2.5 20 minutes ago. Yeah, I bet some money has flown into Vegas of people betting on the Cougs. That's probably a lot of fun. Let's party. I'll tell you right now, that Riverwalk's about to be very Cougar red. I can tell you that looks very prime for that as we walk by. Man, oh man, all kinds of stuff like that. See you on Monday from Locked On Gators. Hope to see you Monday. Brandon Olson over at Locked On Gators. Lots of fun stuff. How's Almodova's venue? I think it's an interesting question because it was I think they said 68,000 person crowd. It was a true football stadium. People were sitting all the way up in the top of the 300 sections. And the court was kind of out in the middle of the football field. So think from like the, 30 to 30 kind of area of a football field. And it was, frankly, we said in section 105, I thought we had decent seats, but you were pretty long ways away. I felt like you're kind of sitting at like the top of a more traditional NBA stadium. And we're really kind of sitting about halfway. Like there are a whole lot of people sitting further back than us. Great seat. I'll talk about that at the end of this, actually. But great seat, great experience, great night. More box score stuff. I really did not realize Houston had 3 guys in double figures. It felt like LJ Cryer was the whole offense until the very, very end of that game. I guess Emanuel did come alive there for a second. You won this game more or less without JoJo Tugler because of the foul trouble. You won this game more or less without Milos Uzan because of the foul trouble. Your bench, I guess JV or Francis gave you some defensive stuff, but truthfully, your bench didn't give you a whole lot of offense. Malik Wilson played just 9 minutes, and I think, going into the tournament, I thought he'd play a lot more per game. And got Duke fans here in the chat saying, had a awesome job getting back into. Well, some respectful. I'll take the respectful Duke fans and thing. That's fine. We'll talk more for a second, and then we'll wrap up because we do have a long drive home. It's long night. Everyone should go out and celebrate this thing. Oh my God, Houston just beat Duke 70-67. We got more to talk about it in a second, but we do have to tell you that today's show or tonight's show or whatever time of day it is right now is brought to you by our buddies over at TurboTax. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting and wondering and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives you your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return. We get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All you need is to go to TurboTax.com. They give you all you can to get your money back guaranteed. All the money back you can be guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. This is now what taxes are. Get an expert at TurboTax.com. Only available at TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only on the iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Park Ranger, Locked On Coogs. We're talking about Houston's most improbable win, I think, like maybe ever. Like I guess you go back to like A&M where you have Ryan Elvin shooting free throws at the end last year. You could go to the Arizona game in the Sweet 16 in 22. You might go to earlier this year in Kansas, probably. I mean, that I guess that was even more so. The stakes of this one, though, man, in the Final Four to be down 5 with 74 seconds left, and you're playing a team with a bunch of first round draft picks on it. Like just what's going on, man? What a chaotic, what a crazy, what a freaking night. So Cryer had his 26 points. I really felt like my dad and I were talking like he's the only one like keeping him in this thing for so much of the game. Emanuel had his quiet 16. Juwan Roberts had 11 points. I think the bigger thing he had in this game though was he had 12 points. You know, it's the primary mark on Cooper Flagg. And I know Cooper Flagg had 27 points, 4 assists, 7 rebounds, and it's easy to be like, well, if Juwan Roberts has the primary mark and a guy had 27 points, how well did he really do? But honestly, it was like he made it as difficult as you could for a guy who's going to be the number 1 overall pick. And he frankly played defense on him on the final isolation possession, one-on-one defense, forced him into a tough shot, and he missed. And I think perhaps more importantly, he forced him into a tough shot with like a solid 15 seconds to go. So even if he made it and went up 1, Houston got the ball with a shot to win. I mean, like pretty picture perfect defensive possession from Juwan there. And like, man, like I couldn't have been for a better guy, right? Like 6-year guy, winningest player in program history. He was on the Final Four team if you go back to 2021, but he was way down there in the roster. You know, he's a guy that I don't know what his pro prospects are like overseas and stuff like that, but might be the pinnacle of what he does here in the States as far as basketball goes. And like, what a way to be, you know, heading the national championship game with put a ball on it. Like, what a freaking way to go, man. It's still 48 hours. We got more basketball to play, but like just special. And there was one stat that popped up that I think people have probably already clicked on. But when you look at Kelvin Sampson, right, who has not won a title yet, this is his 3rd Final Four, 2nd with Houston. Tonight was win 799 if you keep track at home. 798 was the Elite 8 game. 800 would be Monday. And like that is just almost like weirdly fortuitous. They're playing in San Antonio, but the crowd, my dad pointed out actually that when the crowd was kind of ho-hum for most of the game, at the end, while the Proctor guy was trying to shoot free throws. Ultimately, I think played a big part in him missing the free throw and getting Houston the ball back. Just a crazy series of events. But for 800th win for Sampson to be potentially the national championship Monday, Houston Cougars playing in San Antonio. Just lots of stars are lining for a weird story. The guy gets to tell this story all year long with you, 5 nights, 5 days a week, whatever it is. Things are lining up weird, and that's just a really, really cool thing to keep an eye on. I don't mean to gloat too much, but I got 2 things more to say. One, I told you guys throughout the week that I thought a weakness of this Duke team was they had a lot of good playmakers, a lot of good scorers. They did not have a real point guard. They had Knipple, who's like a good wing, Proctor, who's like a 2 guard. Sion James is like a 2 guard, and Cooper Flagg is like an everything forward wing, whatever. Those guys can all handle the ball. Those guys can all pass the ball, etc. But they are not point guards. And I thought Milos Uzan was going to be a big advantage for Houston. All right, I'll eat a little crow that Milos barely got to play because of the foul trouble. But the point guard thing came into play down the stretch, I felt like, right? Where Houston, to try and force some stuff in that last 10 minutes, was flustering pressure defense playing. They usually play about 35 feet of defense. They played the whole 94 feet there for the last 10 minutes. And Duke was calling timeouts. Duke was flustered. Duke was throwing the ball away. Duke was rushing. They didn't have any sets to go to break the press. we were walking out afterwards, and there were people talking like, well, do we need to fire John Shire? I'm like, the dude's been there 4 years, been to 2 Elite Eights and a Final Four. I don't know where you're fire that guy. But they're talking like this. He couldn't break a press. They couldn't break a press. And it ultimately, we talk about Houston struggling against the press against a couple teams this season. It worked against Duke too. Good teams have problems with that. And so ultimately Houston had some success pressuring that. And so while, it wasn't quite the Uzan matchup I thought it was going to be, it A, was the Cryer matchup, and B, it really worked in Houston's favor. They didn't have one that could settle an offense like that, like a point guard does. Guys that dribble the ball and make good passes are not inherently point guards. There's a real difference in how that goes. All kinds of people flowing in here. Didn't troll personally. Proctor had a rough night. Take down the SEC. Driving though. No, my dad's driving. I'm talking. Yeah, we're working. We're working. All kinds of fun from that game. And last thing I'll say, now I'm gonna get off, and we're gonna keep celebrating here, and y'all should keep celebrating as well. It was a high emotion night there in the stadium, and then you have a long walk with a lot of crowds back and forth to the car. We called my little brother as well when we got in the car and all that kind of, it's 1 a.m. where he is and all that kind of stuff. But two fantastic Final Four games. Our Houston Cougars win the second one, and truly, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but historic kind of fashion. And all this got made possible. I started talking about sports, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago with one buddy on a very amateur podcast. Through that, I met a guy named Andy. Andy got with Locked On. He said, you should come get with Locked On when you had a Houston show. You're a Houston fan. Things click like that. Through that, I meet a bunch of people like yourselves talking about Houston Cougars, handful of nights a week. Like I said, 5 days a week at least or whatever, right? And then it goes from that to making connections with guys like Mike, who I actually talked to on the show, I guess however long ago that was. Mike is involved, connected, and he texted me last week. He said, where are you sitting at the game? I said, I applied for a media thing, said it was full. I didn't get the media thing, whatever. So I think I'm just watching from the couch, man. He said, you're going. Here's your tickets. And just send them to me. And Mike, Beer Sports Whatever podcast, go check that out. Mike's fantastic. Really fun guy. Diehard Coug. If there is someone drinking beverages in the river right now, I bet it's Mike Brown, right? Dude's a great guy, fun guy, great Cougar. First of all, thank you. Truly special night to Mike and the crowd over at Beer Sports Whatever. Just a one of a kind of day, and right, cannot stress that enough. And two, that's just a weird, cool journey to get to this, right? Where we're yeah, we got a long car ride home, and we're gonna go talk about this and whatever on the way home. But to look back at how special all of that was, and it just lines up just right. This Final Four is in San Antonio. This Final Four is in San Francisco. It's probably not the same kind of thing, right? This Final